Hey, welcome back. This is the second monthly video newsletter from Win Every Battle. I'm Mike Galiga. I'm glad to be here with you. I want you to pretend like it's just you and I sitting down together and going through this lesson. This, by the way, this lesson is going to be on a DVD set called Know Your Destiny and Live It. Win Every Battle, Know Your Destiny and Live It. And that is, that's going to be out here in a few weeks. So we're excited about that. But this is cool stuff, so welcome. What I want to talk about is this newsletter is really about a thing called the breaker. B-R-E-A-K-E-R, the breaker. So the reason why that's so important today is because there are so many people, whether they have money or they don't have money, they need a miracle, they need a breakthrough. So for those of you who haven't somehow seen me before or know where I come from, what I want to explain is I'm a businessman. I'm an attorney. I don't practice, but I went to law school at the University of Kansas. I passed the bar and that sort of thing. I have a degree in economics, but I'm not an economist. I'm a businessman, but I'm also a life adjustment expert. And so what I do a lot of times, some of you have seen me do this before, is almost all of us, we're pushing and we're pushing and we're pushing. And life hurts. It's not working very well. And what I do is I teach people how to make, most of the time, little changes. And these little changes cause big changes, which cause your life to rotate, come together, and it feels good. And we like good, don't we? That's what it is. Oftentimes they're small, but they're very important, and they just make life work. So that's what we're doing. I want to start off by telling you some stories. I love stories. Most people do. But I want to tell you a story, and it's about a phenomenally important book. I know where you think I'm going. But this book is really cool. And this book, I have a copy of it, and I go back and read it from time to time. This book is called The Ted Williams Story. Now, some of the guys, maybe a few girls, I've got your attention now. Ted Williams was a baseball player. He's no longer with us. He's passed away. But he was also a Korean War fighter pilot, jet pilot, fabulous. But he is arguably, most people would consider him to be the best baseball hitter in the history of baseball, from beginning to end. And but that's not what made him so special. But let me tell you the coolest part about this story. There was a lady, and this lady would go to the ballpark. She never missed a game. She'd sit up in the stands, and she would never, ever miss a game. And this person came to her and said, ma'am, interviewed her and said, ma'am, why do you come to all the games? And she says, well, you know I'm blind. I can't see. He goes, yeah, that's why I'm interviewing you, is I want to know, why do you come to the ballpark to watch the Red Sox play and you can't see because you're blind? And she goes, well, there's certain things in this ballpark that I just love. I love the smell of hot dogs and cotton candy and all that stuff, the excitement. But there's one thing I really, really love. And you know what that thing is? And he goes, no. She goes, I can tell for sure when Ted Williams stands up in the dugout. And the man interviewing kind of stepped back and said, wow. He goes, notice she didn't say when he hits a home run, when he hits a grand slam, when he does something unbelievable in the field. She said when he stands up in the dugout, she knows. And this is what she said. She said, I know when he stands up in the dugout because the atmosphere in the stadium changes just because he stood up in the dugout. That's the kind of personality he had. That's the command he had over that game. The respect he had, the magnetism over that game, that ballpark, that dugout. When he just merely stood up, the atmosphere in the entire park changed. And she was blind, and she knew when he just stood up. That's amazing. And so what I want to tell you is that your Maker made you to have that kind of favor. That may be news to most of you, but He made you to have that kind of earthly, awesome favor. Okay? This is a concept. It's irrefutable. He, your Maker, loves each one of you equally. He loves each one of us equally. He does not favor equally. Favor is earned the old-fashioned way. If He gives you favor and you don't have the character to handle it, you'll explode yourself. We see it with people that win the lottery, and some of them, most of them, don't have the character to handle that kind of power. 2 years later, they're broke, they're devastated. They just basically in Oklahoma, what we call, they blowed themselves up. You know, they're no more. So favor has to be earned, and when you earn that favor, that's what happens. You merely walk into a room. I've had this happen many times. You just walk in the room and people are like, who is that person? Who is that woman? Who is that man? And sometimes they say it out loud. They're like, wow, it's supernatural favor. And while we're on the topic of supernatural, each one of us, each one of you, you and I, each one of you were made in your mama's womb by your Maker to commune with Him and to have fellowship with Him, to touch and reach into the supernatural. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to reach into the supernatural. I'm going to show you how to do that. So you have the favor like Ted Williams did at the ballpark when the lady that was blind could tell that he just stood up. That's all he did. And she knew because it changed the atmosphere. And when you have that kind of favor, that breaker anointing, that's what happens. You walk into a place and the atmosphere changes. Why? Because your Maker is with you, breaking the way. That's what you need. And I've said this before, but especially in the state of Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan, that there are a lot of people that were in the automobile business or the manufacturing business of some kind. And those businesses, even though they've recovered a tiny bit, they're nothing like what they were. Those days are unlikely to come back. You need things to change. Some people call that a miracle. That's when the supernatural realm, which basically is a fourth dimension that operates around us at all times. So just think about it. Let's take the Bible and set it over here for a while, okay? Let's just do that, because I'm a business guy. If things work, I use them. If things don't work, I get rid of them. It's that simple. I don't use a lot of church language. I hardly use any. I go to church, though. But I'm practical. I want things that work. If they work, I use them. Again, if they don't, I don't. So I hope you're hanging with me here. But let's talk about that supernatural before we move on. We live in a three-dimensional world, and any astrophysicist worth their salt will tell you there is at least a fourth dimension. There's probably 12, and probably even more than that. They will tell you that the fourth dimension is where everything is determined. And whatever happens there, all around us, not just up there, but it's a dimension that simultaneously, it's a parallel dimension. It's all around us all the time, working and existing, but we can't see it or touch it. And so when we learn how to fight our battles, notice the name of this seminar and the books and all these things we have, they're called Win Every Battle. The battle is for your life. Yes, you're going to lose some skirmishes. You will. Some of those skirmishes are big, and you're going to get knocked in the leg. You might get cut. You might get stabbed or something, but you won't die, and you won't take a head wound. And what I'm talking about is winning the battle for your life, knowing your destiny, getting there, finding out why you're here, where you're going, and what's going to happen to you when you get there. That's what this is about. You have to know what we're going to talk about in this lesson. It's absolutely required.